Hi everyone, welcome to the virtual edition of BMO IFFSA Toronto 2020. And this panel is seductively titled The Feminine Mystique, which was a very important book in second wave feminism written by an American feminist called Betty Friedan in the 1960s. And I think she used the term very ironically to refer to this very mystical pull that was assumed that women had towards domesticity. So the assumption was back then that women were very happy playing domestic goddesses, being housewives and mothers, and that they had no need to pursue either education or their careers. They were just happy supporting the careers of their husbands. And that was the feminine mystique, ironically, that she was trying to decode. But I think in today's panel, we're using this term subversively to find out what is it that drives these amazing women filmmakers that we have on this panel today. So hopefully in the course of this conversation, we'll be able to find out what are their artistic impulses, their artistic motivations, as well as the challenges that they face. So my first question to all the panelists is that what drives your storytelling? Why do you choose to tell a specific story? And I think all of you have very different styles of filmmaking, and that I think Rima and Konkona, definitely your films have been very intimate and personal, while Geetu is much more explorative in terms of themes, geographies, content, style. So why is it that you choose the story that you choose to tell?
Yeah, I actually had no plans of, I had no plans of making a film or directing a film or writing a film. So, I never thought that I would really get into filmmaking from behind the camera at all. And I've just made the one feature film, and I'm not even sure if, when I'll get back to, directing another film either. So with this particular film, what happened is that I was so intrigued by the main character of this story and the world of that character. That is just something which was in my head for very long. And it was just something that I personally was so fascinated with. And I was just turning it around and around in my head so much that became, I wouldn't say an obsession, but it's something I would keep going back to and tinkering with my head and trying to understand it in different ways. So at one point, because it just started to grow. So it's not like I had the intention of making a film. I was just thinking about this. I was thinking about the time in the 70s, which is when, my parents' youth, this particular character who was, also in the 70s, interacting with my parents. It's based on real life events. So this is just something which started to grow in my head. I started to make notes. I started to construct a kind of story, really more to solve a puzzle for myself. But what happened in that is that slowly it kind of started to take some kind of shape and form. And eventually at one point I realized that this can become a film and that it's very interesting to me. So I want to share with people how or why it is interesting. Which is how it really started. I was actually slightly appalled that, oh gosh, will I then have to write it? And I was even looking for writers to begin with, to write the screenplay. But the one or two writers that I spoke to, and I told them, they were like, you already know all about the world and the characters, so you should write it. And then I kind of, I started off, and I had a wonderful associate who I got on board, Disha Rindani. And then it just kind of developed into a screenplay. It was not something that I had really planned to begin with.
Mm-hmm. Rima, what motivates you to make the films that you make?
When I started watching world cinema, then only I I felt like making films, and so I just started by my own. And my first film, I actually, if now I wonder why I decided to um, tell a story about a geography teacher who is, who is a retired geography teacher. I really wonder now. And that story, I was writing in Mumbai, and mostly I think imaginative. And then when I started shooting, then I think then I started connected to my roots. And when during the post-production of my first film, Manu the Binocular, I met my future actors of Village Rockstars, and when I was shooting Village Rockstars, then I met my future actors of Bulbul Can Sing. So it's a very spontaneous, and it has been an exploratory journey for me. And maybe because living in Mumbai from long time, and also looking for acting job 5-6 years, so it was like I had tough time. So maybe in my village there, because they there is a strong community feeling in the village. They share their joy, they celebrate together. And working with non-actors, they are easygoing, have a rustic rustic sense of humor, zest for life, freedom. I think it draws me instantly, and that's how. So it's mostly not away from real life, my characters, uh, but also it is, I think, my imagination. And yeah, that's how. So it's spontaneous actually. And if I can convince myself, so I mostly don't like to write my stories, so it travel in my mind. And if I can visualize my characters and my scenes, then if I'm convinced and driven by my story, then I just like to tell my stories. That's how it's working till now. Yes.
All right, thank you. Over to you, Geetu.
I don't know. Like, I mean, I was just trying to find my answer when I was listening to Konkona and Rima, to be honest. But see, the thing is, I'm kind of like I was born in India, but I was raised in Kuala Lumpur, and then I came back and studied in Kerala, and then I did my undergrad and my high school and undergrad and everything in Canada. So I'm kind of like lost in my roots. And that's something which I think it's a self-awareness. Like, I realize that. So so when I try to tell a story, I always feel that I need to find my audience. Like, I don't think that it's going to be something which is going to cater to a certain sensibility here or a certain sensibility there. Like, I don't even know who likes to see my films, to be honest. So I thought I might as well be very genuine in what I wanted to say. And I became an actor by pure default because I was a child artist in Kerala. And and then I became an actor much older. But I think my primary thing was I wanted to write and I wanted to direct. So I saw this as a stepping stone to, do that. And so I didn't have to really search for stories because I was always writing and I was always, in the process of discovering how I wanted to tell my stories and stuff. So I think I kind of went to the space which the story required me to go to, like Chitkul in Himachal or Lakshadweep and then Bombay. And so it's not that I kind of stayed true to how I wanted to tell it. But one thing is, so initially when I wrote, I mean, it's like free writing, like you write, especially with Liar's Dice, it was kind of like a journey where so much happens because there is a woman, there's a lamb, there's a child, there's a man who's coming in. So you think that, okay, there's going to be adventure, there's going to be this, there's going to be that. And I wrote all of that because I was like, wow, it's my first film. Let me just put in this, let me put in that. But then finally, when I decided on the certain terrain, and then I traveled through that terrain, I realized that nothing happened. It was just me traveling very quietly. So then that's when I realized that why should I have an intervention of these things happening? Let nothing happen in a film, like, and people just have to watch it because nothing should happen. I mean, I want to make it as mundane as possible, and that was my self brief. And so even the music is very repetitive. So the people are like, okay, this is not ending. What the hell is, where is this film going? Like, I was kind of putting people into that kind of a space. And that was quite exciting for me, to be honest. So yeah, I mean, it's very spontaneous and it's very instinctive, like how you go about with things. And for me, it's quite organic because I don't really write a lot of dialogues and stuff like that. It's kind of like a skeleton, and then I kind of improvise with the actors and go along. And so, but casting is very important for me. Like you need really strong people who can collaborate with you as well. So I hope I answered your question. But
You did, you did. So, you all mentioned like your different relationships with writing. Like Rima said, she doesn't like to write her stories. She would rather visualize them. Geetu, you mentioned free writing. So I was just wondering, because you've also, all of you have also written the films that you've directed. So what is your relationship with the screenplay? Like, is it just a springboard for your imagination? Do you feel the need to be like extremely loyal to it? How does it work? Or does it disappoint you? Does it feel like you've transcended the screenplay when you see the film that you have made? What's your relationship with the process of writing and the screenplay?
for me, the script is never the Bible for me when I film, because I've noticed a pattern in all the films that I've done, that I write something, I shoot something else, and I edit a different film. And that seems to be working for me, because I think along the way there's so much that changes from locations to actors deciding not to be part of the second schedule to so there's nothing that you can, kind of stay true to the Bible and say, oh my God, I need to have this scene in. No, I don't think so. And I think for me, it's quite instinctive. Like when I see the character as someone else who's more exciting for me, as I shoot, I might just change my track. So I'm not a very loyalist like that, but it's kind of like, true to the storytelling, that I do what excites me in every process of making this film. So for me, like the script is not the epitome of, okay, this is it or anything of that sort. And I think I have the freedom to do that because it's my stuff. Like I write my stuff, so I can change it any which way that I wish. And so, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Rima?
With me also, it's very instinctive, and Village Rockstars and Bulbul, because there is no crew, so it's a lot of freedom. So when I am casting my character, scouting location, even I edit, and it's a lot of back and through. So, and it's quite interesting for me, and also I keep learning. It's honestly, I keep saying it, but it's like a film school for me. So that is what happens with me. And even with Bulbul, I think I finished half of my shoot. Then I introduced Bonnie's my like third character. That also happens with me. So I take lots of freedom. But when I write, it's not that writing a bound script, but at least I put some notes. And when I'm writing notes, then I know the structure of my film. I know my plots. I know my subplots. I know my characters. But anything can happen, And yes,
How lovely.
that's how it works.
Very spontaneous and organic.
It's fun. Yeah, it's very personal and organic, I think.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Konkona?
Actually mine is completely different, I think. So of course I can only speak about Death in the Ganj. I don't know how it will be again if I make another film, but I think with Death in the Ganj, what happened is that one is that two, three things. One is that I was a little nervous because I have no technical background in filmmaking, and I've never really studied filmmaking. Of course, I've acted since I was a child. I've acted in more than 50 films. My mother, etc., my grandfather, they've been involved with films, etc. But I've never had any training. So I was very, aware of the fact that I want to kind of do it properly. That I want to be able to. I don't want to leave things to chance. That if I don't manage to kind of, shoot it or make whatever, if I don't manage to pull off what I'm thinking of. So I wanted to, I think not that I actually thought this through, but I think that must, like looking back now, I think that must have been it partly. Another thing was that, I imagined the whole film, right, in advance. So I feel like for me, it's a little like packing, you know, like when you're packing and you're going to, like, say you're going to a desert or you're going to the Antarctic or whatever, like, you know, different places. When, you know, what is difficult is not putting it into the suitcase, but what is difficult, or at least what requires thought, is what you will need. What is the experience you want to have, you know, when you're there, what you need in your suitcase. So if you know what is going to go in, then to put it in is not that hard. So for me, it was like, I need to know what is going to go into the script. And then, you know, that's another process of just putting it in, etc. And I actually like to, I like to be able to know what's happening, in the sense, what is the beginning going to be, what is the ending going to be, and how I'm going to go there. So I actually like to have like very broad points to begin with, like this will happen, then this will happen, then this will happen because of that, or whatever it is, you know, and then keep expanding. Now, sometimes it's uneven. Some things I'll start expanding earlier and some things a little later. And of course they influence each other, and some things will change, all of that. But I wrote a very detailed screenplay. I mean, there are shots in the film which are written in the screenplay. I mean, I described shots, etc., and taken those shots as well. Also because I knew that I wouldn't have much money to make the film. I knew, because of the kind of film it was and the kind of history of, like, you know, how we make films here, etc. I knew that I wouldn't have much money, which was also very liberating, because when I was writing it, I was like, "Theek hai, nobody will give me money. I'll just write whatever I want." And then even when I was, I think, even like, when I was writing it, then finally, even when I was basically I started thinking that it's okay, nobody will come and watch it. It's fine. I can just make whatever I want. It's okay. Nobody will watch it. I found that very liberating and comforting for me personally. And of course the film, you know, recovered its money, etc., because it was made with limited resources. And the other thing, what happens is, when you have limited resources, in my experience, your main resource is time. So I really wanted to not leave things to chance and know what I want and what I have to do. And I had, you know, very clear ideas about, oh, this has to be like this has to be like this, the light here has to be like that. No, this character has to be, you know, so I, like, it's like the whole film was in my head, and then it was execution. Like, how do I make that happen? So in that sense, even when I was editing with Manas, who's fantastic, I mean, except for some things, I mean, it really is pretty much the script, which was vaguely disappointing, because, you know, sometimes you've heard about, you know, films which change on the editing table. And I have been part of films where, you know, it's changed in the edit and it's become so much better, and all that. So I was wondering whether that magic will happen. In my case, it didn't. I think it's also because, you know, my film was in McCluskey-Ganj. It was a very remote place. There was no infrastructure. There were many people. I had like 7 main characters almost, or at least 5, you know. So, I mean, I remember I used to feel very overwhelmed, you know, and I used to be so happy when there used to be just 1 or 2 characters ki, "Acha, theek hai, अच्छे से करेंगे," you know, प्यार से करेंगे, or whatever, you know, like, with care. So in that sense, I think that, yeah, I was very particular and very planned about, and I had like a short list, and also because I was so scared. I was like, I don't know if I manage, I better have a short list. I'm going to have to do this. And on some days, of course, we didn't stick to it, or some days things would change. But I like to go in with that. I think because it's more reassuring for me than anything else. And also because it helps to communicate to all departments.
Interesting, very interesting. So, you know, as Konkona mentioned, that she finds working in this independent space where there are fewer expectations liberating. So I just wanted to know, Geetu and Rima, what do you think about that? Do you find independent filmmaking constraining or liberating, or both in different situations? How does it work for you? Especially with you, Rima, because I think every interview of yours mentions how you're a one-woman crew and you basically take care of everything on your films yourself. So is there a sense of liberation to that? Or is it constraining? Would you rather have it differently?
It definitely it's liberating. Is when I started my first film, that time I had a very small crew, and I didn't assist also anyone. So my cinematographer, he taught me. I just knew, okay, I need to say action. He said, no, before that you need to say roll sound. Yeah. So I had self-doubts and fear, and maybe because of that, I could see doubts in the people's eyes also, and I was not comfortable at all, and that was bothering me. Also, a lot of patronizing advice, maybe some of them unnecessary, because although I was new, somehow it's my story. I knew somehow what I was doing, and also there was budget constraint, then time. So I just decided, I didn't think that I do a film all by myself. I didn't think about it. But it was the circumstances, and it was my conscious decision that I needed to be alone. I needed the solitude and freedom to make my film. And that's how it was a decision, and I had my camera. So what happens, like when I'm visualizing my story, my scenes, and so you know your image, but still it's unknown to you, because when you go and execute, it's different. So you imagine something, and when you are shooting, everything is real. Your location, your characters are real. So with me, when I am working independently, then uh, with Village Rockstars, it was okay. It was good experience, because it was, everything is new and exciting for me. But when Bulbul happened, uh, because mostly I use nature as a backdrop. So with Village Rockstars also, I was mostly using nature as a backdrop. But when working in Bulbul, I found it a bit repetitive for me, and I have very limited resources, and I largely using handheld shot or just following my characters and steady. So you feel sometimes, it's frustrating. And also in indoor, there are lots of limitations. You cannot use the light the way you want, and you feel like, oh well, like art could have been better, then costume could have been better, and the image is there, but you cannot create by yourself, because you have nothing much. Then I always feel like, okay, just do right now. Telling the story is more important for you. Later, when you will have more resources, and you will have people with similar sensibilities, then you can create. So till now, whatever I am doing, for me, like telling stories more important for me. So I'm enjoying my independent space, definitely. But sometimes you visualize and you struggle, because it's not possible with limited resources. So, but definitely, when I'm working independently, it's beautiful. I think it's very organic, and you are enjoying the process. And it's just not the film. You are, as a human being, as a person, I'm changing. I think that matters the most. Yes.
Fascinating. So there are both constraints and liberation in that. Geetu, what do you think?
So for me, my first film was the most genuine effort, I think, for me as a filmmaker as well. Like I felt that, like it was so tough for me to get financing for that film. And then I applied for the Hubert Balls Fund. We got like 7 lakhs from that. And then I took my main HODs, to Himachal, and then we checked out the locations, and then I scrapped up, I said that I don't need so much happening in my film, and then I reduced it to bare minimum, and then we had like a group of 20 of us with backpacks. So it's like 2 vans and 2 tempo travelers, and then one little car to bring the goat with the mother. And so it's so beautiful, because we were shooting from Chitkul, and then we came all the way down to Delhi. So we were shooting, camping, and then we finished the film in 18 days. And so it was so beautiful. Like for me, like I was so liberated to tell it the way I wanted to tell. And I thought that I'm going to have the similar pattern for Muton. But what I realized in Muton is that it gave me more baggage because I needed more money because it had magical realism, and more money means star. And then I got a star, and the star came, and he was so amazing because he's, you know, for him to play a homosexual, he's a superstar in Malayalam. For him to play homosexual, for him to have so much of belief in wanting to tell the story. So I said, fabulous, and it's now great. It's all looking great. But you don't realize, I realize it now that as a filmmaker, I kind of got contrived somewhere down the line because the star comes with fans. It comes with expectations, and so much grows in and around you that I realized that I had to keep, you know, checking myself that, okay, I'm going to tell it the way I want to tell it. I'm not going to give an intro. I'm not going to do this. I'm just going to tell it the way I want to tell it. And what actually happened with Muton is I had to do 2 cuts, and I don't believe in 2 cuts. But I did a 2 cut. I did a festival cut and I did a theatrical cut. And that's because of the baggage. That's because of the expectation. So I kind of felt like, you know, the last 1 week I've been writing my next. It's a huge film. And now luckily I've got people wanting to do it. And huge film again, wanting to do it means stars. I'm thinking, oh God, will I be sold out in my next? Like, it's a constant worry, you know? So I'm just sort of holding on to, and what happened is in between all this, I got a Facebook inbox from a journalist, and I don't usually go through my Facebook inbox, but this thing just popped up, and he wrote to me. He said that Liar's Dice was so genuine. I'm expecting more from you, and it just kind of put everything back in perspective because it was kind of, I know what I felt and who I was when I was making Liar's Dice. So somewhere down the line, I want to hold on to that. Even though there's so much of constant pressures and so much of, you know, Liar's Dice was in Sundance, Oscar, this when Muton went to TIFF, what's your next? Like, I want to stop that noises around me. I want to stop that, you know, and it's very difficult. Like, I'm being very honest when I say this, that I'm really scared what I will be for my next. You know, I just wanted to be that girl from Kerala out of nowhere who just made a very small film. Like, so.
That's a very interesting thing you mentioned, Geetu. Konkona, Rima, do you share this worry that as you grow as a filmmaker, maybe if your film attracts, the next film gets more funding than the previous one, there are bigger stars attached? Is this a constant fear, kind of this artistic integrity versus being compromised or contrived as a filmmaker as you grow? Is that something that plagues your mind?
It doesn't for me. It was, I was a bit confused because then when after the success of Village Roxas, people started approaching me and I was worried, and people always, they keep asking me, is there any pressure? How is your expectation is high? Or but I think this lockdown is helping me a lot to understand what I want in my life. And I'm now very much sure that I just want to make movies and tell stories, the stories I want to tell, that's it. And if I can collaborate with people sharing similar sensibilities, then it's fine. Otherwise, I think life should be simple. Yes.
I mean, Konkona?
Actually, that's something I've had to a little bit struggle with even in my career as an actor. You know, in terms of what kind of films I want to be part of. So I feel like that choice I kind of made early, you know, that I do want to, that I don't have to make films or be part of films. Not that, I mean, it depends also what films you're offered. So everything is not in your control. But, you know, I think that if I make another film, I'll have to be first really convinced of it by myself. You know, otherwise I don't want to make a film just for the sake of making a film. So if I am really convinced by it and I'm really excited about it and I want to kind of, you know, I feel compelled to, then I'm hoping that the artistic integrity will follow, you know. So because I am also, you know, a working actress. I am continuously also acting. I'm not continuously, but off and on I'm also acting in projects. So it's not like I have to be a career director. You know what I mean? Like I'm not obliged to make another film or anything. So and what attracts me in any case is, like, I'm not really very interested in very epic films, or like scale doesn't impress me easily. So but like if one can communicate the experience of living, if one can communicate an expression of life, or intimate moments, intimate as in not sex scenes, but like intimate as in like what it is to live. I mean, I those kind of things are interesting to me. So if I can find something interesting like that, I'm hoping I'll be able to do it. And I'll make it for little money. I think that's better. I would rather make it for little money than have, like, in fact, after Death in the Ganj, I had a few offers. I was like, Areva, because the same people who didn't want to do Death in the Ganj, then like some of those people also said that like, we'll make your next film, and they wanted to give me some money to write a script, and I was a little torn in the beginning, but eventually I was like, no, I'll write the script. Because when I was looking at those agreements or whatever it is, it's like they will approve of my drafts and tell me how or what to write. I was like, no, that can't happen. Only I'll write, let me be happy with it, then I'll see if I can find someone who wants to give me the money. Otherwise it's okay. Yeah.
All right. I just wanted to come back to what Rima mentioned a few minutes ago about the importance of formal training in filmmaking, and how, whether or not how you look at it, it kind of sometimes arouses suspicion in the people working with you in terms of your abilities. So have you all struggled with that? Or does it just get better with time and experience?
So I guess, I mean, everyone knows here, but people who don't know, I am married to Rajiv Ravi. He's a cinematographer. And I met him at a very impressionable age, I would like to say, 19.
Wow.
I know. So I met him at 19, and as an actor in my second or third film, he came down after shooting for Chandni Bar, and then he was a cinematographer for that. So ever since, my journey with him had started, and so he understood that I love cinema, and I love filmmaking, and I'm writing, and I'm trying to do my own thing, and ever since I was really young. And then so he has been my guru. He has been teaching me so many things, and introduced me to his taste in cinema, and so much. And I think after a point I took off in my own journey. And so, but he was a start. He was a start that kind of got me into this whole technicalities, and given me books and asked me questions like a teacher. And it was fabulous. I used to run away with him, away from him. I used to be like, no, don't ask me these things. But then after a point, it just kind of like, I got excited by it. And then it has been my journey. So, and it has not been easy, because you have to keep updating yourself. So when he updates himself, he lets me know as well. So there's so much which and he's like hand in glove for me. So yeah, so it was I think it was a great learning curve for me. And then and there's so much more to learn. You know what I'm saying? It never stops. And no matter what you know and what you learn in theory, it never comes close to when you are there at that moment and you say action. Your knees will knock if you don't know what the hell you're doing. So right up until then, till you reach that point, I think you just need to keep learning, updating yourself, and then so.
Mm-hmm. Right. So Rajiv has been your film school. Rima, Rima, do you still struggle with the technical aspects of filmmaking, or is it getting better now?
Rima is the rock star.
She is
now.
I think with every film, like, I'm always scared and nervous. And now I'm not actually working quite few months, and sometimes feel like maybe I've forgotten everything. That happens to me, and yes, I feel like going to film school now.
Yeah, me
And
too.
yeah, yes.
Yeah, and it's so reassuring. Sorry to interrupt. It's so reassuring to hear you say that because I know you haven't forgotten, but it's reassuring to know that you feel like that sometimes. Yeah,
Yes,
sorry.
so that's what happens with me, because I just know I like whatever I learned, like watching films played a large part in forming my cinematic concepts and ideas. So it is just watching films. So I never been to a big set, or I feel like I don't know many things. That is how I feel. And also, when I like to challenge myself, I like to do more and better. I wait for magic. So yes, I want to be a student. I think at least not. I want to take a cinematography course if I can do. I can come and I can ask if I can assist your husband.
Why
Yeah,
not?
that's learn. I just want to feel that, like, yes, I miss that. And
Yeah.
this time also, if I'm going to start my new film, I have that fear that I'm going to repeat the same thing again and again. I'm going to create same kind of images again and again. So I just want to break that. And yeah.
Brilliant. Konkona.
You know, somebody, I think Alankrita said to me that because I remember when I'm trying to write my second feature, and who knows, I don't want to put any pressure on myself. I'm like, ठीक है, होगा तो होगा, नहीं होगा तो नहीं होगा. I'm me putting no pressure on myself, and there I could see while writing or constructing that this is like Death in the Ganj, this is like Death in the Ganj, and I was like, am I going to make the same film again? And then I remember Alankrita telling me that what, all filmmakers are just making the same film again and again, and I found that so reassuring again. I think, yeah, technically what happened is that because I have no any training in acting or filmmaking or whatever, that I mean, I was worried about that. I was a little worried, and I was like, why, how, etc. So, but what I didn't realize is two things. One is that because I've been on a film set since I was pretty much born, and actually started acting when I was 4, and I've been like, I myself have acted in over 50 films, and I must have been to hundreds of film sets. And because my mother is a film director, I have actually been a part of like editing, dubbing, post prep, the meet. And like, I used to play my games as a child with my mother was, I'm the director, she's the actress. This is when I'm like 7 or 8, and I'm saying starts on camera action, starts on, they used to say that time, starts on camera action. I'm telling her what to do, why she's not doing correctly. No, you're sleepy, why are you doing it like this, you have to do it like this. So apparently I've been playing director since I was a kid, making budgets. So my mother during Poroma is having a budget meeting or a prep at home. I'm making my own meeting, me doing my own thing, making my own budget, etc. So I didn't realize that actually that helped me in terms of familiarizing yourself with that world, so that it's not something, and this is, of course, I don't know if this is, I mean, I guess it's privilege, hugely for me, and I'm lucky in that. Also that when I was starting off, what happened is I had a full script ready, and I'd even taken it to the NFDC script lab, and I had a fantastic mentor in Martin Rabatz, and I had a full script ready, and then I wasn't taking it to any producers or not really trying to get any funding, mainly because I was like, a little scared also. And then my mom also pushed me a little bit. And one thing she said, which helped me a lot, is that I mean, you can have all the technical expertise and still not make a good film. Number one. And number two, the thing is that she told me that if you know what you want to see and you have the image in your mind and you know what you want to see, if you can communicate that to your HODs, then it's also their job, with their skill set to bring that, to execute that for you. So that was very useful. So, I mean, which is why my script is also very detailed when I was writing. It must look like this must happen, or this is the feeling, or whatever, like, because I felt that might, whatever, help me to communicate with my HODs. And of course, one learned a lot alongside, I feel like having been on set is a huge advantage. So to come in, like many people do a direction, like start off, like many people get into direction, like from being an actor, somebody like from being an editor, somebody from being a sound designer or whatever, musician, so, but in these kind of cases, especially if you've already been in the film world, you know how these things fit in. You know your place in the bigger thing. You know how everything else is fitting in. I think that is a huge advantage. So, in fact, I mean, if people are watching who, and there are young people, it would be great to get training, of course, but it's also great to get on-set experience, in different departments, I would say.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. I'm going to switch gears a bit here. So one thing that I find really fascinating about all of your films is the way that you inhabit the minds of men. And here I'm referring to the character of, say, Bhai in Muthon, or Shutu in A Death in the Gunj, or Rima, the boys and the bunch of characters in your films. And it appears to me almost as if, these very complex, layered, sensitive men are written as an antidote to the men that we are using, like violent, macho, conventional representations of men. So could you walk us through the process of writing these male characters? And actually, there's another thing that I want to ask here. Have you felt like there is a different way that women write the male characters? Is there a female gaze, so to say?
Well, one is that I want to say that I'm very bored by the word of violent men. I mean, of course it's a reality and of course it shouldn't be, but I am just really sometimes in films, okay, so, like growing up, the most of the films you're watching, most of the books you're reading, we are used to already inhabiting the world of men. Often the protagonist is a man. So, we are anyway used to doing this. That is one thing. I don't know if that helps us to be more empathetic or whatever. I think also reading lots of books, watching lots of films helps you to inhabit the mind of another individual, male or female. Sometimes when I'm watching a film, which is just full of men, I really get bored sometimes. I'm like, where are the women? What are they doing? What are they thinking? Where are they? Why can't we even see them? Like, for example, Dunkirk, and many other films. There are many other films. Some are good. Obviously, I'm not saying all films with only men are bad. Nothing like that. But I'm saying by and large, if there are only men, then sometimes it can get really boring unless there's a very good reason or they're really doing a great job. When I wrote Death in the Gunj, in fact, I was asked also in my NFDC script lab that why is your main character a man? Now, why is it not a woman? Now, this is the other thing, that it is just because I'm a woman, it is not incumbent upon me that aap bas write about women now. So, one is I'm very irritated if anybody is telling me what to do. B, if they're limiting and saying you can only do this, this is not fair. And also if I'm addressing masculinity, if I'm addressing patriarchy, if a lot of that is arising from men, we need to look at the men. Don't constantly look at the women. Women have to behave like this. Women should not have expectations. Women should dress like this. And women should do these things. And women should be strong. And women should report whatever cases of whatever sexual harassment. Let's look at the men now. Let's change the gaze a little. Let's see what's happening there also. So I felt quite strongly and it's not like I'm looking at a man to look at gender. You know what I mean? Instead of just only looking at women to look at gender construct. Yeah, I mean, that was the question, no?
Yeah, and that is what is very interesting to me, because I, of course, don't think that women should be encumbered with this burden of making only female-led films with female protagonists. But I do think that in all your films, the way you look at men is very different, is more empathetic, is more sensitive, layered. So just that aspect, if you could.
Yeah, and of course there is a female gaze. It's just that, I mean, more women have to make films for us to see that what is emerging from that female gaze. Now, that female gaze could be very regressive and patriarchal in itself. There are women who make those films also. There are men who make very nuanced and progressive films as well. So, but enough women have to make films, because right now it's actually very little, statistically speaking. Then we can see what is emerging.
Definitely. Geetu, what do you think about that?
I completely agree with what Konkona said. And I also feel that when I started writing my characters, it was very interesting to observe, because it went to Sundance Lab. And it was so interesting to observe. There was male and female mentors, and we are known as the fellows. And it's very interesting, their take on my film and the characters. I mean, from what my expectations were, was kind of quite similar to what each of them were saying. And I was very surprised by some of the comments as well. So the gaze is always there. There's no doubt about it. And I think more and more people need to come out with narratives, especially women, so that we understand the different types of gaze. And I honestly feel that, like, in any type of creative form, be it literature, be it art, or be it cinema, every time there has been a female gaze, it has always been different. I'm not saying different better, but I'm saying it's always been different. So that has to be, we need more of that. We need to welcome more of that. But I think when I'm writing these characters, I mean, I look at it in terms of the arc, what it does, like from act 1 to act 2 to act 3, and, how it kind of comes a full circle, and not just with the male protagonist, even with the female and the subplots and everything. And I have been posed this question many times, saying that, why do you have male protagonists in your film? And I keep saying that I think we should keep having male protagonists in the film and say, this is how it's done. So, and there has also been so many filmmakers, I mean, who are my personal favorites, male filmmakers, who has written so many progressive women characters as well. So yeah, I think we need more narratives coming out.
Mm-hmm. Rima?
Yes, even I agree with Konkona and Geetu. And when I'm writing my characters, I also try to, if it's a female character or male character, I try to remain neutral and non-judgmental while directing and allowing them to tell my stories. So I'm both of my last films, like my first film, my main protagonist, he was a male. It was a male character, and it was not a conscious decision with Village Roxas and Bulbul. So it was spontaneous, and I also, no doubt, like, okay, I would like to create more women characters just because I can relate with their journey. I can, so that is the only reason. But if the challenge is how, not being judgmental, how I can portray a male character. So if I don't have much experience, if I don't know the character, then it's very difficult for me to portray also on screen that character. So then I try to go deeper. That's how it helps. But yeah, it doesn't matter to me. Sometimes if I can convince myself, then yeah, it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to add also to that, a lot of the time in my going about my life, it's not like I always feel like a woman, it's not like I always feel like a woman or I feel like a man or anything. It's just that I feel pretty neutral a lot of the time. And that again is perhaps because of, the privilege that I've been brought up in, that I've not had to worry about certain things. But it's not like because these are all conditioning and constructs, So I think that a lot of the time, it's just individual to individual, like interactions as well. And of course, there should be more female characters and more female directors, etc. Absolutely. I mean, it just so happened that that particular character I was obsessed with at that time was a real person who happened to be a man, and through whom I could tell a story about what it is to not fit into very typical gender roles.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I just want to ask
There
you.
are so many. In India, we have so many unexplored stories, and even now, working in a village, the society might consider them ordinary, but there are so many hidden gems, and the women, they're underprivileged, but they are so skilled and talented. So it is also for me I'm getting this opportunity to help them, you know, realizing their dreams, talent, and their values. So yeah, it is an opportunity for me. So that is because of that, and my process is very different because I don't wait. I just go and shoot, you know, whenever I feel like, I just go and shoot. I think that is because of that also, I don't need to think, and I can create more women's characters also, and it's also a privilege for me, yes.
Mhm. Well, you know what I was thinking about is that as women filmmakers or as women writing and directing these films, is there some sort of a political imperative to portray your men a bit differently? Because Konkona, for instance, when you are creating a whole film around this man who's, I mean, to me, A Death in the Gunj is an exploration of masculinity, of different kinds of masculinities. Geetu, like your kind of handling of the love story between two men in Muthun. So I'm just thinking about, are there any kind of political responsibilities you feel as women when you're writing these characters? Or is it like Rima, you said, you're just trying to go with the characters wherever the story takes you and the characters take you? I mean, is it all that simple, or is there something kind of in the back of your heads which is saying that, okay, no, as a woman, maybe I want to do things differently or I have to do things differently?
See, for me, as a filmmaker, I have to be responsible. I have to be socially responsible. I need to make sure that my politics are in place. I mean, that's me. And there is a certain sense of responsibility. I don't just say it's entertainment or no, I will be responsible. And I do call upon films that are not. So when I'm dealing with homosexuality, for me, I didn't want people to see homosexuality. I wanted people to see love. That's my politics. So for me, and I hope that I have managed to do that with Muton, because once the love story starts, I want people to engage with these two characters and look beyond their gender. So that was my strong politics in that. And the reason why I wanted a star is another responsibility, which I thought was fabulous, because I wanted maximum reach for this kind of a storytelling as well. And I wanted his whole fan base to understand that, you know, it's okay. You know, there's all types of love. So there's a lot of thought that went behind casting. There was a lot of thought that went behind telling of that story. And in every step of the way, my best friend was gay when I was studying in Canada, and he committed suicide, and I'd seen that. So I was very close to the story. I was very close to, and I was very sure on how I wanted to tell it, and the outcome. And so, yeah, and I think that's the constant, you know, whatever constant undercurrent of the narrative that you're dealing with, the socio-political context or whatever, it's very important to be responsible for me.
Sorry, your question is that how do we feel that we have to be responsible as filmmakers? You mean politically?
Mm-hmm.
I think that the kind of films that I do generally, I think, you know, it's really an extension and a reflection of who you are as a person. So if you are that person, I think that that will probably come across in your films. If you are not in your day-to-day life somebody who is aware or considerate, and your film is that, then that seems a little fake actually, and it's a learned thing, or just like checking boxes. Because that, if your film is something which is saying that women are whatever equal, or that, you know, gay love is also love, and in your real life it's not, then there's a disconnect there, which then it seems inauthentic. So I think that, so what you are in your life, and especially if you're writing and directing, then I think that that will reflect in your work. I personally don't feel that imperative ki I must be a particular kind of a way, because I think that in my limited experience, I am just trying to communicate a feeling or an experience. And I think that like myself, what I am will bleed into that in any case.
Uh-huh.
But I'm very aware of like research. I really like to do my research properly, like of whatever it is that I'm trying to communicate, to make sure that it's real. Yeah.
Right. Rima?
Yeah, it's also same. It's reflection of who I am, and it, also my story, my characters. So earlier also I said that I like to remain neutral and non-judgmental. So if it is, I am in a way responsible, but it depends on, like, and last two films, they are when exploring, and I'm talking about children and teenagers, then then I have to know them, their characters, their personality, everything. So it is all, I'm still like exploring to find out my role in making a movie. Sometimes maybe like I just want to give a message, or sometimes I'm talking about an issue and how I want to see the world, like also my experience. So my craft and artist is evolving, like how as a human being I'm evolving. So it just how it works. It is not like deliberate, but if my story and my characters demands, yeah, then that's how it works.
Okay, thank you. I absolutely do not want to stop listening to you because it is such an interesting discussion. But in the interest of time, I think I'll let you go with just one last question, and this will be really quick. Could you all recommend like one film directed by a woman that you've seen recently and found it, well, worth watching?
I'm just going to Google the director's name.
So there's one movie that I saw which I absolutely love, but it's done by a husband and wife. Maybe the wife called the shots. I don't know, but you can
We'll
Google.
assume that and go with it.
It's called Birds of Passage.
Okay.
Birds of Passage. It's done by husband and wife, and the cinematography is done by her brother. And I've just been stalking them online, but
What nationality?
it's a Colombian film. It's a.
Okay.
Have you guys heard of it, Rima, Konkona?
No,
Birds of
I
Passage.
haven't actually.
It's
I
online.
saw that
Where?
it was in campus. I think I saw
Yes,
it
yes,
there.
it was. Yeah, it wasn't.
Yeah.
Birds of Passage. It's in fact, it's a 2018 film.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a Colombian drug trade. Okay, I'm going to mispronounce these names. It's by Ciro Guerra and Cristina Gallego.
All right.
Well done.
Have you Googled it yet, or should we go to
I
Rima?
found her name. Yeah, I found the name. So this is a film called Summer 1993 or Summer of 1993, and it's by Carla Simon. It's a Spanish film, which I really enjoyed. I saw it at Mami a few years ago, and it's about a young girl who is orphaned and comes to live with her aunt and uncle, and it's just a very kind of a tactile experience of childhood.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you. Rima?
If you ask me last what I saw, I saw this a documentary. It's called 13th by
Sorry,
Ava.
third?
13th.
13th. Okay, okay.
Yeah, and documentary I just watched. I think that was the last woman film I watched. So I'd like to be watched by people, and many things I learned about, like this Black people movement going on. That's how I just watched that film.
Do you remember the name of the filmmaker?
Ava?
Ava DuVernay, I think
Eva
it is.
DuVernay.
Yeah.
Ava. Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Oh, Eva, that, yeah, a lot of people said
When They
about
See Us.
Well,
Also.
yeah, Call Me by My Name, is it? No.
No, no, no. It's When They See Us, the
Us.
Netflix
Yeah,
documentary.
And 13th, yeah.
yeah.
13.
Eva DuVernay.
Okay. Thanks.
All right, you all have been brilliant, and I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. And I hope the
Thank you,
audience.
Nandita. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Lovely to
Thanks,
see
guys. Rima,
Thank you,
Geetu,
guys.
Nandita, the Nanditas.